Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me on Branch Basis Future Picks podcast. I'm your host, Clarissa Jenkins. Today, we're talking all about IATA's World Data Symposium, or IATA WDS for short. This event is one of the largest in the industries, and it kicked off on April 8th in Singapore. What it does is it brings together data, technology, and cybersecurity, these leaders within those spaces to not only share ideas, but actually showcase real use cases around about three themes that are driving transformation within the aviation industry. I'm sure you're wondering, what are those three themes? Don't worry, I got you. This year's agenda focused a lot on real time decision making. And what that will do is it will enable scalability in AI to go beyond experimentation. It's going to advance digital identity and cybersecurity and overall bring that all together into a cohesive build for truly data driven organizations. Pretty cool stuff. And in fact, at Brand Space, we're a strategic partner of IATA, which means we've worked with airlines and other actors in the value chain to turn those ambitions into practical digital commerce capabilities. This could be like building conversion driven retailing platforms, personalization, or enabling secure data exchange and more seamless connected customer journeys. Seamless and secure, sign me up. But seriously, ultimately, what this does is it helps airlines maximize their revenue, reduce costs, and move faster from idea to execution. So today, we're joined by three leaders from IATA who are right at the center of this shift. Joining me today, we have Bogdan Pasol, who is the head of data engineering and operations. We have Ivo Naraho, head of data science, and Gabriel Marquis, head of digital identity. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me today. How are we all feeling today? What's going on?
Doing good. Thanks. Thank you very much for having us today to talk a bit about the IATA World Data Symposium. We're pretty happy that you're taking that time to be with us.
1 week later, ideas are still fresh. We're very keen to, bring some of the energy, some of the topics that we covered last week in Singapore to bring them over here to the podcast audience. So thank you very much, Clarissa, for having us over.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Clarissa, for having us. It's the perfect opportunity to wrap up the World Data Symposium 2026 and then explain a bit more in detail what were the conversations that we had last week.
So glad to hear you all say that. I 100% agree. The events are so, it's 3 days, it's packed, it's busy, but it's also very enlightening and educating. And then it's on to the next thing. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to kind of digest, review, and see what insights we can carry forward for our individual organizations and the industry overall. So for everyone less familiar with the World Data Symposium, what has changed and why is there so much pressure on airlines to actually execute on these themes rather than just talk to them? Bogdan, I'm going to come to you first with this idea. We have talked a lot about data strategies, but in reality, many airlines still struggle today to turn that into something that actually works day to day for their teams and for their passengers. Where do you personally see the biggest gap today between data ambition and production ready, reliable solutions?
Thank you, Clarissa. I think if we look at the industry as a whole, at the different maturity levels that carriers have in this space, definitely different airlines are at different stages on that journey, right? Some are obviously more advanced, have big teams in place. Some are just starting and, are more tactical about their approach when it comes to their data implementation. And as they progress towards that goal, obviously, some of them are getting closer and closer to realizing the full potential of their data assets. However, irrespective of where they are on this journey internally, what we saw as well is as much as silos are being broken on the inside and as much as airlines are improving themselves in the way they leverage their data assets, we see a lot of walls still existing between the organizations in the ecosystem. And we see them struggling to kind of put together the different views they have of the same information over the same data set in order to provide a cohesive approach that in the end will benefit the final consumer, the passenger, and so on and so forth. That's why one of the things that we will have been working on in the past year was the idea of putting together this POC around building a modern data exchange platform that would enable the different participants in the air transport ecosystem to remove some of the technical friction around exchanges of information in real time, whether it's between maybe carriers under the same alliance doing codeshare and so on and so forth, or maybe between airlines and airports or ground handlers or different service providers and so on and so forth. We wanted to see what we can do to remove some of these technical friction so we can make sure that the various data points, data streams that are available internally can be leveraged safely, securely by other participants for the final benefit of the whole ecosystem, not just individual or participants. Hopefully I managed to answer your question.
No, you definitely did. And in fact, you already answered my follow-up a little bit. But I am still going to ask if there's any other additional areas where you see that broader ecosystem really coming into play, particularly for the customer experience, whether it's individual channels like mobile app versus web portal, or the touch points for the customer. It's not, there's the booking, but then there's also the check-in and the post-flight. So is there anything within that broader ecosystem where the data ambitions are so important for production?
I think you've touched upon a big elephant in the room. Let's be honest here. I think a lot of digital transformation, data, IT, technology leaders in the industry and beyond, they are definitely kept up at night, let's say, by the potential of, the latest AI technology, obviously everything based on LLMs, including AI agents, and all this wonderful new world that just opened up in front of us, right? So there's so much experimentation and so much ambition, not only in our industry in general, around how do we leverage this new interaction pattern between the passenger, the end consumer, let's say, and the various systems in the back end that would, translate into, so many potential benefits, not only improve passenger experience, but advance distribution channels, advanced ways of marketing the services that the industry provides. So I think, like everybody's make this very, very obvious, is that data is the fundamental fuel for this revolution that's based on AI. So coming back to your original point, these are the whole AI agent enabled interaction channel definitely is an area that is a big focus and it has great importance.
Yeah, okay. That's good. I'm glad that we have that kind of level of agreement and validation, because I would agree, like from a user experience on a high level, all of this AI and assistance sounds incredible and sounds, it'll be great to make our lives more easy and fluid. But the data aspect, are we comfortable with the level of data that might need to be shared and processed? And what does that actually mean? And so with that, I'm actually going to bring it over to Ivo and turn about that generative AI aspect. There's a strong focus this year on turning generative AI into airline business value, and then moving from experimentation, playing around, testing things, to the actual impact. We all know there's no shortage in AI initiatives across the industry, but honestly, fewer examples of the real business impact, because that takes time. But from your perspective, what do you think separates airlines that are genuinely turning AI and data science into better decisions and measurable outcomes from those that are still a bit stuck or planted in the experimentation?
Yeah, Clarissa, thanks for this question. So just first to frame it, AI in the aviation industry has been already quite some time. But what really shifted a bit since the emergence of generative AI access, like for example ChatGPT type of solutions and more easier access to knowledge, is this trying to find specific applications of this technology into specific processes or also touch points with our customers. And what we saw compared to last year WDS, World Data Symposium last year, is that now we are moving from experimentation, trying to find where the use cases that are interesting for these applications, into where the impact, the real value is. And this is the conversation that happened this year, moving from POCs, piloting this type of solutions, into the specific outcomes from this technology. And another thing that we run at IATA is the IATA adoption of data technology and cybersecurity survey. So we run it on a yearly basis. And this allows us also to observe, snapshot the industry into this adoption of technology, AI, and value from AI. And what we observe is, as my colleague was mentioning before, there's a very diverse maturity in our industry, in our airlines. But also we observe that the main blocker or like showstopper of the adoption or the impact is not the technology. It's around the specific processes, governance, data governance, data processes, and processes to move this experimentation into value via like standardization and operation type of operationalization of machine learning and AI solutions. So basically, that's something that we observe. We observe that there's a bit of an improvement overall in the industry, going in the right direction. But basically, these are the main considerations when moving from experimentation to value. And this resonated quite a bit in the World Data Symposium presentations from our member airlines, from the industry. So basically, this is the focus now of the conversation, is like how to leverage value and what is the specific value that this type of technology brings to the industry. I don't know if this is answers your question, but this is how we felt the symposium going and the conversations going.
Absolutely. There are no right or wrong answers. Definitely, I feel as if I'm speaking to experts. So, want to soak up everything that you all have to offer. But I do really appreciate you touching and specifically saying that it's not necessarily about the technology itself. Because we have been in a technological revolution or expansion for decades now. And personally, I feel from a user, we are starting to plateau. The new app, the new gadget, the new software, is it still adding value? Is it still adding ease and seamlessness to my day-to-day life, but also for my travel journeys? Or is it another app I need to jump back and forth on, or another profile or another email that I'm going to, another company I'll receive emails from, something I haven't necessarily heard anyone else say. So I appreciate you touching on that.
If I can just add on this, what really changes with this generation of AI is as you mentioned, the fast paced environment, and how organizations are adaptable to these changes and this adoption. And basically, what we also observe in the industry is like organizations that are more adaptable to enable AI are actually the ones that are winning this adoption kind of race, because it's basically structural processes, how we enable all this technology to be embedded into the products offered by the organizations or the services, and also the internal operational processes that we have. And organizations that are able to embed that faster are the ones that are actually driving more value from AI. But it's still a challenge.
Very good point. And would you say that those within these systems, the ability to continuously learn or optimize on their own and scale quickly is also very critical, or maybe less critical in comparison to how you're actually using that data? Or are they in par with each other? Who knows?
I would say same par, yes, because what we observe is basically AI readiness is about data first. Like, do we have the data that is well governed, managed for AI? But it is also how the organization adopts AI, and then also the transformation of the organization and the people, the literacy, the talent also. So this is, I would say, a full, complete, broader focus than just okay, data readiness, but it's also um, governance of AI and also the people. So that's I would say the three main criteria to be successful on AI adoption.
Yeah, creating that kind of like mutually beneficial relationship. To you personally, from your experience, I am very curious. Is there one maybe broad tip you can provide airlines who want to create that foundation? So, where the governance and the people are set up to then foster this relationship to the data and the AI. For airlines who are like, I don't know where to start, or I feel like I'm just casting a net or a fire hose. Any tips for them?
I would say data is still very much the focus. So I would say this is the first focus, in the sense that without data, then there is very little value from AI. So the value from AI is actually the value from your data, but enabled via the AI application on top of it. But then also I would say the processes and how actually I would say AI literacy is very key, because also what we see in the industry is also the over expectations of AI in general, and basically this comes with the literacy on what AI can and cannot do, and basically this is something that I would say is as important as the data, because basically this is what drives what is the value that can be created with AI.
Oh, Bogdan, I see that you have your hand raised. What else can you add on? Any little tidbits for us in relationship to the conversations?
That building a bit on what Ivo was just saying, is we had a very interesting session at WDS called Key Innovation Stories from Korea. Hopefully the pun was obvious, but the focus was from Hee-jung, the CIO of Korea, and that was exactly what Ivo was saying, is going back to the data, right? And how it was actually for them to be, to now actually have Gen AI based workloads in production. That is just the tip of the iceberg. But before that, there was like a 2 or 3 year journey where they focused only on the fundamentals, the the data governance, the platforms, and so on and so forth. So yeah, just wanted to bring it back, link it to a session that tackled this specific topic heads on, and this was some of the learnings that they shared with us during that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're here today, to recap WDS. So seeing that direct correlation, and also be realistic about the time it might require. Even though technology is progressing exponentially, doesn't necessarily mean that it can be fully available, perfect at, within those same time limits. We are all still human, I believe. So we also need to learn and expand our knowledge. So appreciate that. And Evo, now I know that we have been, thank you so much for those insights. And I would actually like to turn it over to Gabrielle, because this is very much so your space, digital identity, and the POC, or proof of concept, that branch space participates in. It's gaining a lot of momentum now, especially around the verifiable credentials and identity for the distribution process. We have been collaborating, as you know, with the POC, but I want to take a step back and, to Bogdan's point, look at maybe what comes prior to that, the foundation that needs to be built. How close do you think, like, truly are we to seeing digital identity embedded into everyday processes that airlines and customers experience?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for diving into this. And actually, well, when we say we, the question is who is we? Because if we zoom in some areas, we could argue that domestic travelers in India have been experiencing or have been having the opportunity to have travel powered by digital ID, contactless travel powered by digital ID for a couple of years already. And then if we look at other places, actually from the POC, we've got Air New Zealand that took part in the POC that says that they want to bring that to their travelers between Australia and New Zealand in the really short term. We have actually Google and Apple that launched digital passport for US passport holders, and it's already live. So actually, with that, I would argue that some people are already able to experience it directly. Some people will experience it really soon. Well, obviously, I've been head down with the innovators and the early implementers. I would say really, really soon. But it's, as you say, it's important to step back. What reassure me in that feeling that it's coming really early is actually the comment we had from our Director General, Willie Walsh, during the opening plenary that was saying that he was confident that the progress around digital ID would have significant impact on the traveler experience and the operational efficiencies within the next 5 years. So I think that for people that have that really industry-wide vision and experience of what it takes for the industry to move, that's also a medium-term thing. So I think we can say that definitely there for some people, it's going to be here really soon for some other, and across the world, it's pretty much something that our senior executives see that in the medium term for everybody.
You said 5 years, correct? In terms of global, India sounds like they're a bit at the forefront. We've got the USA experiencing that movement. But I want to make sure that I was correct that a lot of these industry leaders and stakeholders truly believe that more or less 5 years and we'll be fully there from beginning to end for the customer journey. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you've got a few quite a few touch points actually. If you've been able to be there at the presentation, if anyone's seen the POC presentation, we had actually a customer journey with about 20 touch points, and I think so. There is how much will we get these 20 steps in the process to leverage digital identity or to actually benefit from the existence of digital identity, and some of these will appear sooner or earlier than others. And definitely, digital passport check. I think I still get frustrated every time I do my online check-in and then someone stops me because they want to swipe my passport to make sure I haven't done any typo when I typed in my passport number. And we're like, okay, we can access our entire life savings for our bank account and prove who we are, and then to give our passport detail, we don't have that yet, and it feels like a slight disconnect. And really, so yeah, really in terms of presenting your digital ID, your digital passport online, that's where we think it's a really low-hanging fruit, because we've got this industry or private sector solutions that are here that can be easily leveraged without having to move anything at the airport. So there are some of these elements that are really quick wins. Filling a custom declaration form before you leave, applying for electronic visa, all these things are really like low-hanging fruit as soon as you've got a digital passport copy available on your phone. And as we're discussing, some of these are already here. So yes, so that's really, I mean, for me, that's where I see no reason for things to lag in adoption. So I would say wherever digital passports are available, like in the US, we should have airline and customs and third parties being able to leverage them within the next 12 to 18 months, because now, just if you take into account like a bit of business process refactoring and light implementation, there is no reason for this to take more than that. And then there are some that are going to take a bit more time, but I think through the POC, we've been able to show that actually you don't need to go to a kiosk to enroll for biometric processing, and you can also do that on your phone and then just walk through the airport touch point with your hands in your pocket. So obviously that would be wherever the regulation authorizes that, but for the entire Asia Pacific side of the world, that's a given, and basically we've showcased that this can be achieved with actually your help and the help of the other POC participants. So I think with that, even if there are a few hurdles to solve along the way, 5 years seems a reasonable time to make this a reality for most travelers.
Okay, I thank you that detail on where the quick wins are, maybe versus where the longer term transformations need to take place, really solidifies things in my mind, at least, of that timeline. I agree. The US has had some digital passports as a US citizen and traveling in and out of Lisbon Airport. Personally, I really like Lisbon Airport. They have the digital identity scanning for the passports, and sometimes you're used to your local airport. You need to get there minimum 2 hours ahead of time, sometimes 3, 4. Lisbon, I mean, very quick for me, whether I have a baggage or not. So they've done a really good job. And we've seen that across other airports as well within Amsterdam and I'm sure additional countries. So and you already touched on this a little bit, the connection between data exchanges and making them secure for passenger experience, how that might better enable collaboration. Is there anything else that you can expand on, or additional points for how this might happen and the collaboration across partners and those data exchange touch points could unlock new value for airlines, airports, and customer satisfaction?
Well, actually, one thing the group looked at, and when you look at operationalizing or digitalizing the process, is really much how much can you enhance the customer journey, but at the same time, you want to enable all stakeholders to have not to do away with any check and balances they've got in place and all the due diligence and the process they need to have today. And really what we see today is, you need to provide the information a certain way to a certain people, and whether the level of assurance needs to increase, then we ask you to fall back to paper, to that physical passport. And really much the opportunity there is for traveler to have a single digital ID that for you it's one common way to prove who you are, either online or in person, and then being able to use that repeatedly across the journey so that you can do things easily in a one quick way, no matter who's the stakeholder you interact with, and maybe just once, and that's used across the journey. Also, some opportunities we see, which is there is always that balance between in the distribution space, especially when you talk about search and book, to reduce the friction so that people can book easily and they're not deterred by having to go and get their passport at a time where you just want them to go on with booking that holiday they so much want. But at the same time, it means that you get really little information about the people at that point in time, which means that you can't tell them, hey, by the way, make sure you renew your passport before you go. Make sure that actually you need to get that visa. And that comes much later, usually in the process, when we come to the checking window, which comes with this bad customer experience. And actually, there is really that opportunity because we start to have that wallet approach for ID like it is for payment. So which means that actually in one click, you can present all the necessary information when you book so that you can be given that guidance ahead of time and not just when you come for your check-in. So there's really some good opportunities there. And actually beyond what was tested during the POCs, there's maybe some opportunities to combine these identity and payment transaction. And maybe if I look back to what my colleague Bogdan and Ivo have been talking about agentic AI, which is, how do you link all of that and just have like maybe an agent that goes and do all the work for you and present your digital identity under your approval at the right point in time so that you get best of both worlds. You get actually that agentic AI that remove even further friction from you when you shop, and actually you benefit from all the digital identity elements. So I think that's probably one of the next place where the industry can look at for the next steps.
A
beyond.
wider ecosystem of consumerism or e-commerce. Is that a bit what I'm hearing? We see this for KM Malta Airlines, one of our AAA customers, expanding the loyalty program to not just rewards related to KM Malta, but their partners, the destinations, local businesses. And you can't do that unless you're able to connect and hopefully digitally, having that loyalty card right in your digital wallet that you can scan like your debit card. Also helps reduce the items that you need in your backpacks or purse, which I always appreciate. Is that what I'm like, the kind of the trail that I'm hearing from you today?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the digital passport is the first step. It's the one with most value, but then with that, you've got an infrastructure that enable you to carry any additional credential beyond that. And indeed, then as you look at multimodal or packages, then you've got all these partners experience that can be linked and then claimed in a seamless way. Or let's say how you would go and check in for your flight, check in for your hotel, and get your car, or get access to whatever extra
All in one.
entertainment
Don't
you've
need
got
to
at the end.
access. Yeah, you don't need to access like different emails or different apps. It's all within the same PNR, or a different type of, tokenization that might be used. And I'm really glad you said, yeah, sometimes you do need to fall back on that physical, piece of information. Selfishly, what are they going to do for passport stamps if you turn passports completely digital? It's my favorite part of traveling, is getting that stamp. So we'll have to figure out how to do that with the digital passports.
Something to look at, but we actually what we see is that more and more borders are moving away from it. Actually, if you look at entry-exit system in Europe, you have no more stamps in there. So actually, some not just travelers are missing them. I think some border people are also missing them. But all in all, I think even borders themselves are moving away from stamps. So I guess one less reason to have empty pages on your passport when you travel and have the opportunity to move fully digital.
This has all been super incredible, hearing from all the different angles relationship to digital identity and data. I have one more question to ask each of you. So chime in at any point, interrupt. Let's get a little debate going, perhaps, related to data culture and the transformation of that. We have talked a bit about data culture, what that means for customers internally, essentially the idea of the last mile for AI monetization. But if we think practically, what does that actually mean? So in the real challenge today is still technology, as we have noted earlier, or is it about perhaps organizations, governance, the people that are making these decisions and how they're structuring their teams? I turn that over to each of you first. We did have a bit of response to that earlier, but anyone else who has those additional thoughts on the balance of organizations and data?
If I may, Clarice, then I step in first about this specific culture. This also links to the basically AI value and return. So what I was mentioning before is not only a new technology that is fast-paced moving and basically how organizations adapt to it, but it's also about, I would say, collaboration within the same organization, how you have a specific, let's say, community to have same understanding on what AI brings to, or data brings to the organization, right? So this is something that is, I think, crucial into any execution of any data strategy, about having these platforms to exchange between business and the data experts, right? So this is something that we observe. Also, we do have a specific group of airlines, in our case, AI community that is called AI Network for Airlines. And then what we observe from this group is very similar pain points within the specific airlines. Like when you ask them what are the biggest challenges for data and AI adoption, it's not technology. It's about what I mentioned before: organizational structures, governance, data management, having the right data processes, but also about literacy and AI talent or data talent, to have this into account, to have the organization understanding what are the skills needed to leverage data, and to have the full organization on board to that. So I think that's what I would say is a big transformation for any organization, leveraging data for value creation.
Exactly. And exactly. You touched on that earlier, and plays into Bogdan's verbiage of, the elephant in the room, being able to come together and create that universal vocabulary or understanding or goals. Even though airlines are competing against each other sometimes, it doesn't mean that we can't progress the industry as one with knowledge sharing and collaboration. Anything else from you, Bogdan or Gabrielle, in terms of what Ivo just said?
I think, first of all, I really like the question. I like the part about the last mile of, AI or data monetization, irrespective of how you look at it. And I think it plays into some of the things we discussed already about that, foundation that you need to build in order to get to that last mile, right? However, I think there are a few ideas that I would like to touch upon. When it comes to whether it's more technology or culture, obviously it's a mix of both. But I think we got to a point where it's more about culture. So many organizations out there, IATA including, carriers including, are investing a lot into the processes, the tools, the internal teams that make this all a reality. However, I think there is still one last mile to cover when it comes to actually changing the way decision makers across the organization, from the CIO to the junior analysts, are making decisions or making recommendations. Not everybody makes decisions that go beyond the instinct, that pattern in their mind that has been forming for 2 years or 20 years or 30 years or whatever it is, right? And I think this last flip of going from my gut feeling says this to at least, my gut feeling says this, let me double check it with the data. I think this is the part that's kind of like, it's still missing. And obviously it will take time for that to change. Now, to come back to the technological aspect, obviously technology has improved a lot in the last few years. Now there's a lot of self-service tools. They're easier to use than ever, right? You don't need to be an Excel VBA expert to get insights from the data, right? It's becoming more and more easier, but there is still some technical friction. Let's be honest. Senior leaders still rely on analysts, on other people in the organization to do the grunt work when it comes to that, right? And here is where I think technology is going to play a very beautiful and exciting role in the next 12 months. Because again, coming back with this wonderful new technology, large language model, generative AI, they break down a lot of the barriers to getting insights from the data, right? Because you manage to abstract away a lot of the, the ritual of working with these tools through language. So you just ask questions, and then in seconds, the large language models generate the right, script, SQL, algorithm, whatever, to get it and present it to you in a very easily to understand and understandable manner, maybe even with a nice graph on the side as well, just to make it extra punchy. So I think from this perspective, this last mile of value from AI and analytics is going to be, revolutionized in the next few years because of culture, as we push, but also because of the technology that we're working with nowadays. So beautiful question. Thank you so much for that, Cardi.
Yeah, and if I may, actually, the data and AI team have been sprinting ahead to showcase value for their business team. But we know that anytime we want things to operationalize and scale, then we need the security team to be able to support that and make sure that things happen in a safe way for all organizations. And it means that basically it's even faster sprints that are expected from the security team. And that's a bit the beauty of the World Data Symposium is to bring this part of the organization side by side so that they can see what's happening on their side and they can align and they can exchange on this topic and actually bring. So it's part of culture we're discussing, but as everybody is accelerating to deliver the value, I think the World Data Symposium is bringing this security team, technology team, data teams together to actually go even faster to bridge that last mile. And that's probably what I think a lot of the discussions that happen in Singapore, and I'm sure will keep happening over the next few months.
This has been so incredible. The kind of points, but also the different words that each of you use. We're talking about the last mile, but then also using the word bridge and instinct. So you have, natural structures coming into play, how to make connections, but also how to stay tuned and be aware of the emotional and the humanistic aspects, and maybe even push against that a little bit and challenge that at an exponential rate or at a faster rate than we have in the past, because things are developing so quickly. And if technology is developing quickly, human mindset needs to keep up with that, as well as, regulatory or those guardrails that Gabrielle spoke of to make sure people are feeling safe. So really coming together, really very insightful with all of those points, and really wraps everything up, in my opinion, into a holistic ecosystem. I really appreciate you all taking the time today to discuss things. We all stated again that BranchBase is participating in the digital identity POC with your organization. We're on round 3, I believe, phase 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. And BranchBase's digital commerce platform, TripLake, is the foundation for the digital channels to, facilitate these experiences, seamless digital experiences. And it's progressing our platform very quickly as well to remain adaptable and work with government, airlines, airports, those different systems that we all mentioned today. So I think we can wrap it up here if everyone's okay with that. And if there's any other last minute shout outs or tips or insights or even personal opinions, what do you think is coming next, or what do you think might be a big challenge? The floor is yours for the last couple 30 seconds, 1 minute, and then we'll call it a day.
I mean, I can say something for sure is that I've never been as excited about technology as what's happening right now as in the last 6-7 years. The things that are some of the technology that's being developed out there, especially that impacts us like engineers, software engineers, hands-on. I'm not talking about even how they're applied, it's just how it affects our day-to-day work. I say to my team, what you did last year with the data engineer, role is over. You are never ever going to do it again. It's this year and the next. It's going to be completely game changing, and it's a bit scary, but it's also extremely exciting. Like there is a world of opportunity ahead, not only for our industry but overall, right? And that's kind of the thing that I'm super excited about next year's edition, because I think we're going to have some amazing sessions where we're going to see the fruits of all this change and all this development.
I have a lot of engineer friends and work with engineers, but no one ever really talks about, well, what about them? What about their day to day? What this technology changes mean for their day to day and their role? It's all about what they produce and the effects it has on the outside world. So thank you for, one, shining a light on our engineers, but two, having that alternative perspective and what, it means for their knowledge and their expertise of day to day.
So maybe from my side, I would say big shout out to everybody that come and explore technology under the data and technology program. I think as Bogdan mentioned, so times are changing. Sometimes things can feel a bit challenging, but I think it takes a lot of confidence for every organization to come and collaborate and believing that there are some topics that are advanced faster working together. And we had the huge opportunity to work with, I think now it's 40 or 50 strategic partners, including BranchBase, to come as a group to move these topics forward. And so I think it's courageous as organizations, and it's and the people we see around this table and the investment that every organization make to move the industry forward. I think it's quite impressive. And when we reflect on it, I think personally feeling really happy and favored to be with this group to move this topic forward. And so big shout out to everybody involved personally, from every strategic partner organization, but also from the organizations themselves, because it takes commitment, dedication to go beyond your day-to-day job from everybody for a bigger vision. And we're really proud to see that being showcased at WDS every year. Looking forward to next year as well.
Well, you're welcome. On behalf of BranchBase, not to toot our own horn. It is really important to acknowledge that, because it is a new frontier, and there is no fully right or wrong way to go about it. Usually when you're going through procurement, looking perhaps a new digital channel, improving your mobile app, there are proof points, there are benchmarks that you can reference when deciding on a vendor or the commercial outcome. But here we have, to your other people's points throughout this conversation, don't necessarily have those benchmarks quite yet. So it does take confidence and courage to all admit together as somewhat competitors, but also collaborators, none of us really know what we're doing sometimes. And that's okay, because we'll find out together and there might be mistakes along the way, but hopefully we can support each other and turn those mistakes or those failures into learnings and future improvements and transformation. Ogden, Ivo, and Gabrielle, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day and week. And that is Branch-Based Future Picks podcast out.
Thank you so much, Clarissa.
Thanks for the energy.
Thank you, Clarissa.
Thank you,
Well,
Clarissa.
to next year, okay?